Yo, One Piece chapter 911. Yo, what the fuck was Ace doing here, dude? Yo, the Ace and Tama relationship. Damn. I am fascinated. I am fascinated by this. Damn. And like that whole thing with Tama, it is, ooh, that is heartbreaking, man. Like, I wasn't expecting this, like this early. The Ace reveal was already kind of jarring, but you get this moment where, Luffy ends up saving O-Tama and she takes him back to the house, and, Luffy is just making a fool out of himself. Like, he's like, man, this place stinks and it's small and it's dirty, but hey, you made me some rice. And he's licking the bowl and he's just eating everything down. He's asking for seconds. And the moment that O-Tama said that she was going to the restroom, that's when like the red flag went up and you see her drinking from the actual water. That's when it hit me like, oh shit, okay. That was all that she had. And in hindsight, I think there's one thing that could have been done a little bit better, is a little bit of explanation, which is when you find out that she drank the water to try and calm the urges of her stomach because she was so ready and longing for food. People that have not done a water fast, they don't understand that if you're in a situation where you're hungry, a lot of the times that hunger that you feel is just your stomach being used to having a certain number of space filled up, and a lot of times you can quiet that urge with actual water. Now in this case, I know she wasn't doing a water fast, but that idea right there, that was something that I thought that was interesting right there, and it just says a lot about her, that she was that indebted to Luffy that she gave up her last meal. And she's so selfless. She is so selfless, and that is touching. That is touching because, like, people, maybe I'm just jaded, but I feel like most people are inherently in a situation where they're going to do what is best for themselves. And so when it comes to looking out for other people, they'll do it within reason. But for her to give the last crumbs of food that she had to Luffy, a stranger, that says a lot. But that also explains why she's saying, like, hey, some pirates I like, some pirates I don't. You happen to be somebody that's strong. I think I like you. I think that some pirates I like line is a direct reflection of her relationship with Ace. And apparently Ace once told her that he would come back for her. So there's some backstory there. That's going to be interesting to see how Oda kind of weaves that, because even Luffy's caught off guard by it. So that's going to be interesting. What the hell did Ace do over here in Wano? That's gonna be a big point going forward. But like, what I will say, kind of backing up a little bit, because like I said, like usually when you get these reveals at the end of the chapter, I like to start there, mainly because when it comes to the actual chapter itself, those end panels that you get, those are just so damn jarring. Those are typically jarring, and that's where like that big cliffhanger comes in. And so what I'll say here is that in hindsight, you had to build a chapter in the way that you did it. Like, you had to, because it's not going to get the same payoff. So you're in this wacky new world. You're caught completely off guard. You got this moment where Luffy's looking at the baboon and he's looking at I believe it was a lion that we're fighting. And Luffy's like, yeah, you guys can fight. Sure thing. You got your sword. That's awesome. Just don't fuck up my ship. As long as you don't do that, I got no beef with you. And Luffy starts walking off. And what is so interesting here is that you get the flashback on how the Straw Hats actually separate, and Luffy's like, oh, well, I can't find my Vivre card, but whatever, it's an adventure. And you get this moment where all of a sudden Luffy hears somebody in danger, and it's O-Tama. She's being whisked away. Whenever you say anything about the Kozuki clan, whenever that happens, apparently that's a huge offense right there. It's a big no-no. Luffy doesn't even hesitate. He takes off. And what I found interesting on this is that, you get this moment where Luffy is shown looking out the corner of his eye, basically his peripheral vision. He sees that the scope is on him, and Luffy just backhands this dude like it ain't nothing. And what I like there is that Luffy is like, okay, who are these guys showing up all of a sudden? And he's looking around. Luffy immediately makes light work out of these dudes, and then once the baboon and that lion creature start looking like they're gonna turn on Luffy, that's when Luffy just gives them this glare. And that's a clear reference to Luffy's training with Rayleigh, because before the time skip, Rayleigh had Luffy on that island where Luffy was having to face all these wild creatures and everything. And what I like there is that, this is Oda once again showing us that, like, when it comes to Luffy, Luffy is a very flawed character. He's very flawed, and yet at the same time, his flaws are what make him so damn special. And it's through that culmination of all of his experiences that you see everything starting to kind of come together, and you're seeing the makings of a truly legendary pirate. And what you get here is that Luffy's like, what do you want? How about you sit your ass down somewhere before I get serious? And what's so crazy is that, O-Tama, she shows up and basically, she whacks the dudes on top of the head. She's got this weird ability to where she grabs onto her cheeks. I'm not sure if that's some type of ninjutsu, but she grabs onto her cheeks and she's able to make dumplings. So I don't know if that's a devil fruit or if that's just some type of ninja art that she's using. But, she's got this very, very beautiful spirit. And you get this moment to where, she's looking at the animals and she's like, I've conquered the wild animals here. She confirms for Luffy that they are indeed in Wano. So it's going to be interesting to see where the other Straw Hats actually got off to. But you get this moment to where she's like, hey, I'm going to be a great Kunoichi one day. I got to be nimble. And those are like your warning signs that there's something else with this girl right here. And it turns out that the something else is that she's got that ace connection and she didn't have much food. And so when you have the person that shows up at the end of the chapter, once you have the person that shows up at the end of the chapter, I believe she called him her master. Once this happens, all of a sudden she's crying. She's saying that Luffy saved her life and that's why she gave him the rice. And you get this moment where Luffy's looking around. You can tell Luffy, he wants to make things right. He wants to make things right because he didn't know that she sacrificed so much for him. And yet at the same time, that's when she starts getting sick. And so now we're actually building up Kaido in a different way. They're kind of doing Kaido like how they did Doflamingo, where Doflamingo, through the actions of others, was seen as a more sinister person. So in the case of this, it works because you have such a beautiful and innocent child with such a big heart. You have her falling victim to stuff that's the after effect of stuff that Kaido himself has basically greenlit. So that's interesting. That's interesting that they've gone this route right here. It's a pretty brilliant way of actually telling the story, in my opinion, and of actually building Kaido up to be a pretty formidable force for Luffy to take down. However, I want to know from you guys, and I'm not going to talk about the Hawkins thing simply for the fact that, I need to see more. I know sometimes that drives you guys crazy. I'll leave some stuff out because I want to see how it's going to progress. I've learned with One Piece not to jump the gun on stuff, so I want to see how the Hawkins thing kind of plays out. But, my chapter question to you guys is going to be a personal one. So my question for you guys is, could you actually give somebody the last meal, the last plate of food that you have in your household? Is that something you'd be able to do if it meant you yourself would starve? I'm very curious to see what you guys' answer to that is, as well as this right here. When it comes to O-Tama, or Tama as Luffy calls her, and Kaido, do you guys agree with me that this was a good way to show how sinister of a character Kaido is by having Kaido's dirty influence actually be something that ends up poisoning this pure young girl because she drank the water after trying to calm her stomach in an effort to actually help somebody else? Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching until then. Have an awesome day, guys.